So let's cover those two more specific ones. This is probably hard to read, but this is in the book if you want to read the full item, but I'll describe it to you. So there is a company that's looking at Safelite Glass. It's a real company, and they're analyzing the productivity. And the first thing they observed is that if you pay a salary, you get a certain level of production, but if you pay based on what we call a piece rate or some kind of rate where you measure for specific outcomes, like number of windshields replaced or number of calls made to insurance companies, that all of a sudden the productivity went up. Surprise, surprise. So this example illustrates that piece rates work for certain things. If you're hiring people to do deliveries and you pay them based on the number of deliveries they do, well, that piece rate leads to higher productivity of the delivery staff, similar to the Safelite people piece rate on replacing of windshields. So that's why in certain instances where it's a very defined, measurable outcome, and there's a very direct tie between the efforts made and the amount of the outcome, then a piece rate works, similar to the two we just described. And on the very bottom came some data that came from looking at different positions and different occupations and the use of piece rates. And farm labor has high piece rates. How many pounds of strawberries do you pick? And you're compensated based on your actual production of saleable strawberries. And craftsmen, they're paid by the number of shelves that they manufacture for the job or for the store. And clerical, there's less still, where they're performing a task, a recurring task, such as paying bills or processing contracts. And finally, managers is the lowest of all because, as mentioned, it's pretty hard to imagine a way to create compensation based on a piece rate for a manager. How many decisions you make a day? How many meetings do you run a day? How many speeches you make to the public in a day? It would never work that way, right? So what we see is spot market rates, piece rates, are available or used in very defined tasks, and contracts are used for more knowledge worker positions such as managers. So a conclusion here is the optimal method for acquiring inputs depends on the nature of the transaction costs and the nature of what's being desired. What is the input being desired? And to overcome the owner-manager and the manager-worker problems as a result of principal-agent, principals must align the incentives such that the interests are together. And whether that is between the owner and the manager or between the manager and the employees, which by translation means the owner to the employees, that's an important aspect of how we run our companies in terms of compensation. Summarizing the learning objectives then, we had the first topic is obtaining inputs, and we saw the trade-offs between spot, contract, and vertical integration. And we saw the four types of specialized investments, and each had some issues that we're dealing with relating to bargaining, underinvestment, and or the holdup problem. And the optimal manner of procuring different types of inputs is based on what is the nature of the decision, what are the risks and time horizons for different aspects of the decision. And on the second topic of principal agent, we see that owners and managers can align interests through various mechanisms. And likewise, managers and employees can also align interests based on some recognition of what structure of compensation works best.